Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we are breaking down our picks for the top 5 and one worst level 2 bard spells. Almost had that one.
Yeah. We did that one already. You can go check our level 2 cleric spells video somewhere on this channel.
But yeah, we have moved on to bard now.
Indeed. The superior class in only flavor.
As opposed to bard? Or
as opposed to
cleric? Or just, I thought I meant in general.
No, just compared to cleric. It doesn't matter much. They're both very fun for different reasons.
Yeah. Whoa, how did you feel about this list?
It's a lot of overlap with some other existing classes, and a lot of they're not really bard exclusive, but a lot of the more bardy stuff here I think are quite a bit worse than the first level variations. So I didn't love most of what I saw, but the top 5 I'm pretty comfortable. I'm pretty confident in what I'm working with here as far as like doing the bard thing.
I am not confident at all. This may be the least confident I am with any of these lists I've made.
I feel like this top 5 is just 5 we've talked about before in other top 5s.
Perhaps we'll find out. Well, no, I think I might have some new ones, just because there are better spells that I didn't choose, for like combat and stuff, but they didn't feel very bardy to me. Bardic.
So you're here picking the most bardy of bard spells. This is your top 5 defining bard spells.
Not this list, no. But I'm trying to work in a balance. I don't want to pick something terrible just because it's bardic. But I also, yeah. Anyways, let's get on with the list.
Sure. You want to start this time?
I guess.
Hit me with it. What do you got?
What do I have? All right, I got. Perhaps the least bardy of all the spells, Invisibility. I couldn't not put it on the list because it's so good. But
also,
what does a bard want? To be seen.
I think to say Invisibility is the least bardy spells, whenever bards routinely run out on the check and get way in over their heads and need a quick escape plan, is disingenuous. I think of the classes that get Invisibility, the one that uses it the scummiest way is Bard far and away, and I love that for them, right? The Bard fantasy with Invisibility is very different than what the Wizard's using Invisibility for. It's very different than what the Sorcerer's using Invisibility for, right? Invisibility in the Wizard class is like tactical infiltration and sneaking past the guards. The Bard one is getting out of the house before the husband comes upstairs and finds they've been sleeping with his wife, right? Like, that's the use for Invisibility in the Bard's repertoire, the Bard's playbook. And I love it so much more for that. I think it's a really, really fun tool to have on a scoundrel character. I think it's a really fun tool even to have on a performer character who, like, whenever, you see the concerts with the big epic, Metallica leads or whatever, fans getting on stage is horrifying. And they're like, I would like nothing to do with that, please. Invisibility seems like a really useful tool to have in that moment, right?
All right. Feel a little bit better about it now.
Yeah, Invisibility's busted. It's really gross. Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. I guess it's got a little bit of bard flavor, but it's also very practical. Yes,
it's incredibly practical. I would say if you're going to take anything away from these lists, is that Invisibility should go on almost any character that can take it. So Invisibility is really good.
Was that your number 1?
That's my number 1.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's your number 2?
Suggestion.
I almost put that on there, and actually, did I? Let's take a look.
No, if you're talking about spells that feel bardic and Suggestion isn't on your list,
I know.
That was wild.
It was a contender, but yeah, it probably should have made it over some of these. But I felt like I'm giving away one of mine now, but like there's Suggestion, Enthrall, and one other one, Calm Emotions. All felt kind of similar. I didn't want to put all of those on my list. So I chose the one that
is worse.
Yeah, probably.
Suggestion is really great because it's an 8-hour duration and you can get a lot of juice out of it, although it's not going to always work exactly the way you want. This is a saber die that's like an out-of-combat saber die that can be really just useful. This is a way to get what you want once, and that's pretty handy. I've loved Suggestion on every character I've had it on. I found It's one of the most castable spells on my sheet at any given moment. Even if we're like prior to a combat session, even if we're in a combat encounter, even if we're out exploring a dungeon and there's 3 things that speak common in all of the dungeon, suggestion is readily a spell. I'm like, oh, I could do something with this right now. I think that makes it pretty excellent. I have very little complaints about suggestion whenever I'm casting it. The concentration duration is a little bit awkward, but bards surprisingly don't have that big of a problem maintaining concentration on something like this for a long duration of time, because their concentration slot feels a lot more open to the later tiers. So
what kind of thing are you using this for?
Anything and everything. Bob. If I need a favor, if I need someone to go get me drinks, if I need a goblin to get out of the encounter before it starts, if I need the goblin to go report back to its boss that there's an intimidating horde of monsters coming down to kill him, if I need anything that I want to have said by an NPC, this can compel it to happen. And that's very useful.
Yeah, I probably should have made my list over. Well, I guess I'll just say this one now. Enthrall.
I have read Enthrall so many times. Why is Enthrall on your list? Why are we talking about Enthrall right now?
Because it felt like a bardish thing. All right, I need to distract this crowd. Well, I'll just get out my loot and start strumming while my friends go rob the place or something. I don't know.
Now, hear me out. Could that not be done with just a really good skill check?
Well, yeah, but why not juice it up?
I think that Enthrall is a disservice to the Bard class in the way that Distort Value is a disservice to the Shyster, the Conman characters, right? I don't think you need Enthrall to do what Enthrall does. And I think in a game that's as loosey-goosey rules as written as D&D 5e is, where it's trying to say, this system is fundamentally kind of broken, it's up to DMs to figure things out on their own. Enthrall is something that I would, if it didn't exist, is probably how I would rule some elements of bards doing big scale performances to draw attention, right? Is give people disadvantage on perception checks to see notice other things because they're so captivated by the bard's performance. It being codified as a 2nd level spell, I don't think is that useful.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your DM or something. Like if I tried that, with the regular performance check and said, all right, I want to distract everybody. And he said,
with some sick ass tunes.
And he said, no.
It's like, then what am I doing here? It's the one moment where the bards can use an instrument effectively. Other than combat, we're whacking things over the head with it. Which, side note, since we're talking about bards, we didn't do all of our disclaimers with like learned casters and stuff. That's not as important here. What is as important is if you are a bard and you're using a short sword or long sword or a regular weapon, I would highly recommend asking your DM if you can reflavor it as you're hitting people with your whatever your instrument is, because it's way funnier and a really, really good time just to be like, yeah, I take my lute out and bash this man over the head. Oh, delicious. I love it so much. That's all my bard's doing.
Even better, you got a trombone and you're punching people while you're playing it.
And that while giving up bardic inspiration with just the sickest, like Flight of the Bumblebee on trombone while you're just bashing people over the head. Oh, yeah. 100%. Get a tuba in here. Give me a sousaphone. Run around just whacking people with the bell of that thing. Oh, yeah. But yeah, Enthrall to me is not my worst. I don't think I've seen it cast more than once. And the one time I saw it cast, I was like, yep, everyone's got disadvantage on perception checks. And then someone else cast Invisibility and they can move on with their lives. And it didn't matter that everyone had disadvantage on their perception checks. So, yeah.
Yeah. Man. And even if like you got a big enough crowd, everyone's got a disadvantage, somebody's going to make the check. And, all you need to screw everything up is one person to notice the whatever they're not supposed to be noticing.
It's only got a minute duration too, so like it has to be a very short plan for the disadvantage to matter. And also, like, if we're talking about like status effects, a 2nd level spell for disadvantage on perception checks, that's a saber die. This could just say creatures that can sense you have disadvantage on wisdom perception checks, and I still wouldn't be that high on it. But there's a save attached to this. Yeah, I'm not overly thrilled to ever put this on a character sheet.
Then again, it is. Let me see what the. I don't have it up yet. Enthrall. Just a second.
You're all good. I'll keep talking about what instruments can beat people over the head with. Guitars. You can do it with trombones. You can do it with tambourines. You can do it with drums, with the drumsticks and the physical drum itself. That's going to be a great time, especially whenever you like break it over somebody's head. That's really fun. It's always iconic whenever you do that kind of stuff.
Okay. One thing Enthrall has in its favor is that it's 60-foot range and it's all the creatures of your choice that can see you. That could be a lot of creatures.
Is a lot of creatures good enough for a bad condition? If I said
I don't
all
know.
creatures can talk to or can't talk to squirrels for the next minute, I wouldn't be thrilled with that spell effect on any spell level. And that's where I kind of feel Enthrall lands for me. It's like, but disadvantage on wisdom perception checks just isn't that good. Notably, I
Yeah.
will say,
I think it's better than the squirrel thing.
yes, it is better than the squirrel thing, undoubtedly.
Right.
I'm pretty sure imposing disadvantage to perception checks also reduces passive perception. Let me double check that, which is a real point in this thing's favor, just because I was going to say, like, if you're running passive perception, which a lot of groups sometimes do, sometimes don't, but I believe it adds a -5 penalty, if I'm remembering correctly, to passive perception checks. So, like, that is something. It does something. It's just, I don't think that high impact. You have to think, like, what are the number of situations where you standing in the middle of a crowd for a minute to give disadvantage on wisdom perception checks is actually usable. And I just think the window where that's good is very small.
There could be situations where like you can't do what you need to do against the entire crowd trying to stop you, but you could hold your own against a few that notice you.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's something.
What if instead we just cast invisibility on the person sneaking around doing the job as our second level spell as opposed to casting Enthrall?
Well, maybe it's a more than one person job.
Okay, maybe this is a way that the bard gets to feel like they're helping.
Yeah.
It's whenever you give the kid the controller that isn't plugged in and they pretend like they're playing with you, is the bard casting Enthrall.
All right. All right. I still don't. I told you going in I wasn't confident about this list, but I don't know. I still think there's more to Enthrall than, well, more potential that even I cannot think of right now. But I'm not 100% ashamed that I picked it.
That's fair. I don't think it's the worst by any stretch.
No, there are a few contenders. I had trouble picking that one as well.
I picked a new one because I didn't want to talk about what everybody's talked about before, so
I think
I'm excited
I might
about
have
it.
picked one that you already talked about, but
Exciting.
all
Next
right,
up, I'm going next, right?
Yeah, this is your number 3, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one, I don't know if I had put it on any spell list that isn't a bard's, as far as like top 5 worthy. But I think bards that detect thoughts are really good. I think detect thoughts is a rare instance of a utility sort of infiltration information gathering tool that doesn't really have a lot that exists like it. It's a way to probe minds and sort of get the general consensus of what people around you are thinking of in a really cool way. It, to me, on a bard, feels like you're so egotistical that you have to know if people honestly think you're good or not, which I think is hilarious and can be definitely on characters that think they're the greatest gift to humanity that's ever been given a loot, and then they hear people and go, wow, this guy kind of sucks, and they just get unreasonably irate and start throwing things. I think the character's hilarious and very fun to
Yeah,
play.
it sounds a lot like me, going on Amazon to read my reviews for critical failures.
Exactly that. It's I think there's a lot of fun to be had on that front. I also think it just, as an information gathering tool, like I said, there's not a lot in the game that does what this does. This lets you probe into people's brains and figure out what they're actually thinking. This lets you get a surface level thought concept of what's going on in people's general minds. All of that's pretty interesting. It's going to ask your DM to answer some weird questions, and I love spells that make my DM answer weird questions like this. So I put this on a lot of bards. I would recommend you do the same.
I looked at it, briefly considered it, but it did not ultimately make my list.
I think
it's no Enthrall.
Have you seen Detect Thoughts cast? Do you like it all?
I don't think I've ever seen it cast.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's super
and
neat.
I've never cast it because I typically don't play spellcasters, but that
maybe after reviewing every single spell in the game as we're doing, you'll figure, maybe it's time. Let's try it
there
out.
are some I'm excited about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is it my turn?
Yep.
Yeah.
Next up, what do you
What
got?
else do I have? Have we chosen anything this? Oh, invisibility. All right.
Yeah, our number 1 is the same.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. Again, I'm not even sure why I picked this one. There
For the audience at home, I'm going to take a little peek behind the curtain. Bob prepped this about 3.5 minutes before we started
Don't
recording.
tell people that.
If you couldn't tell.
All right.
I did too, but
I chose a Crown of Madness.
I like Crown of Madness. It didn't make my list, but I like Crown of Madness a lot.
Yeah, but for a bard, I guess I'm thinking like just a really maybe sadistic kind of bard that wants to cause a bunch of mischief. Which I didn't pick Nether's Mischief, but
Nether's Mischief is number 1 in my heart, and it didn't even make my top 5.
Yeah.
I love Nether's Mischief. I think it's a really cool spell, and I would put that on a character sheet probably before any one of these, because I haven't tried it yet, and I'd like to. But anyway, Crown of Madness.
The only thing I don't like about Crown of Madness is the actual physical crown that appears out. What I would like it to be is just some rando starts attacking people for no reason.
Sure, you don't want to have a visual indicator.
But I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But in this case, we know somebody cast Crown of Madness.
That's fair.
But they don't know who. Is there a verbal component? It just I guess there probably is. I don't have
there is a verbal somatic component, so whenever it gets cast, people will hear it.
Yeah, well, I guess that kind of screws up the reason I like it. I was thinking about
multi-class sorcerer.
Yeah, but yeah, in my mind I was thinking of the bard anonymously casting this on someone and having him attack evil, or not evil, but just his enemies.
Mm-hmm. I think that
perhaps during a performance.
So I think that as far as saber dice goes, I like Crown of Madness a lot in that it's a really fair saber die because it makes you keep eating your actions, but you're getting your opponent's action in a cool way. I think that's genuinely pretty solid, especially as characters like bards that don't have big damaging options. This being their damaging option, I think is really sweet. Again, I would love if this was like a bard exclusive, because that is very in the wheelhouse of this is how bards get to function, is they get to, mess around with people's brains and have them go crazy a little bit and kind of turn enemies into allies and allies into enemies and negotiate on the social level more so than the physical, I light things on fire wizard level. I think as far as bard spells go, this is, if you're in the market for a decent damage option and you're pretty comfortable saying all of the rest of what I'm doing is supportive, this is a great route to have, because it's both being supportive in that it's debilitating the enemy to the point where it doesn't take actions against you anymore, and then also gives you a damaging option as you now have whatever the best attack roll the enemies have is, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, but still, it's for a damaging spell when you've got other options like cloud of daggers and heat metal. I love heat metal. Just it doesn't feel very bardy to me.
I think heat metal is fine. I like heat metal enough, but it didn't make my top 5, nor did cloud of daggers. I'm even more lukewarm on cloud of daggers than I am on heat metal. It's just 44 damage in a sphere. Like, sure. No. I wish it did 2d4 and was a first level spell, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, it's baby's first, that you put the damage area down and it stays there and damages things, whatever. And probably really good as the first level spell, but that's not neither here nor there, because we're talking about Crown of Madness. You think both those are better damage options though than Crown of Madness? You like it for the conditional stuff?
Well,
more?
I mean, I guess it depends on who you use the Crown of Madness on.
I'm just gonna say a fire giant with a greatsword is gonna hit a lot harder than a cloud of daggers is.
Yeah. In my mind, I'm thinking I'm a bard on stage casting this on just some random peasant watching the show.
This is how you start the mosh pit. Oh, hold on. For everyone at home, I need you to picture this. You do have like the metal rock star bard on stage who looks for volunteers to get Crown of Madness, and then they're all like, "Yeah, me," up in the mosh, and then they're like, and they jam out to it, and this crown of jagged thorns goes and starts wailing on people, and everyone loves it. Oh my god, I love that. I love that so much.
All right, justified.
Listen, it has metal potential. If anything has metal potential, it has bard potential. And most things that are angry and or killing things have metal potential. So.
Well, then, in that case, if we're looking for metal, then the crown absolutely counts.
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah. All right. Well, good for me. Crown of Madness.
Yeah, Crown of Madness is sick. We're going to talk about a lot of spells here, and I actually think it's pretty meritable. It's just like there's a good variety of decent options here. I like my top 5 as like really excellent top tier. You're always having to put these on your sheet. Detect Thoughts might be a side grade to Crown of Madness in a bunch of different ways, but my next one is Silence, and I don't think Silence is close to some of the other ones. I think Silence is really good.
Silence made my list.
Nice. And that feels bardic to you? This one actually feels probably the least bardic to me.
See, that's how I felt about Invisibility. Silence, I'm thinking, all right, I'm the bard. I want all the attention on me. You shut up.
For the pettiest reasons only. Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I love that for it. That's a
So,
great point.
that's where I was thinking from the bard perspective, but then like the actual practicality is gravy.
The practicality of silence, I think, is pretty solid too. Just shutting off verbal component casting is really useful if you can lock someone into a space or put them in a spot where they don't want to go anywhere else. That's quite good. And silence definitely does that. On top of that, it's also just a great infiltration tool to be like, we're going to not make any sounds whenever we're going through this corridor, whenever we're opening this door,
Yeah.
whenever we're blowing up this bomb to get through this wall. It's going to happen silently. That's a really useful tool to have that will always be good at all tiers of play, which is why I think it ultimately, like, if I'm a third level character, I don't know if I'm taking this yet, but if I'm like an 8th or 9th level character, I definitely want to have access to it. So I think silence it's one of those spells that gets better with age, that is ritual castable, that is a spell that you can just be comfortable always having access to for a variety of excellent use cases. I think it's a super sweet ability to have on almost every character sheet I can get it.
Yeah. You're talking about making spellcasters ineffective, and I was talking about telling people to shut up. Best of both worlds.
Yeah,
You silence the bard in the other party.
Mm-hmm. And they can't bardically inspire people because they can't hear them anymore. I guess I think it's visual too, but still, yeah, it's super cute.
All right, that was silence. My turn. What do we got? All right, I guess we're down to my last one, and I picked shatter.
Shatter. Wow, I think this is the lowest we've had overlap for.
Well,
we've
we
had
had two.
one of the same.
No, two. We had silence.
Oh, you
and
had silence?
invisibility.
You had silence. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry, my bad.
silence.
All right. Two, that's still really low.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was a hard list for me. I think last week we had the level 1 spells that was so easy. Like I felt so confident in that list. This one less so. Shatter, I feel like
sure.
Playing a high note, smashing windows, and creatures made of stone.
Sure. As far as like spells that do damage that feel bardy, this definitely is top of that list. I've known a lot of bards that take it. I'm never impressed with it. It's 3d8 damage in a decent area, and that's like good enough. So yeah, sure. It's probably like as good as the damage you're getting for this tier for a bard specifically. It's fine. The area is not enormous, but it doesn't really have to be enormous. It's big enough. Next level, you're getting 8d6 damage with fireballs, which are worlds away from where this is. But I think,
and listeners at home, we're using that as a damage standard. We know bards don't get fireball typically.
Correct. They eventually can if they want to, which I would recommend a lot of times. Because fireballs are really good as far as damage goes. But like, shatter is, in the context of bard, in the context of being just a big chunk of damage, it's sort of as good as you can ask a bard to do. I don't want to ask bards to do that, though. I like bards being the supportive and helping win fights with Crown of Madness effects, helping win fights with suggestion or hold person kind of effects. I like bards playing the supportive role and really leaning into it for the maximum value out of it. That's where I like my bards to be. So this just doesn't really suit my personal fantasy of what I want my bards to look like. But I get that this is a reasonable option to put on bards.
Yeah, I'm saying like this. Yeah, I don't need my bard to be the super damage dealer, but if they do get an option for an area of effect adequate damage spell, then that resonates with the whole bard shtick, then yeah, have at it.
Especially if you're the only caster in a party of otherwise full marshals, shatter is a pretty useful resource to have access to. Like if you're the only one that can do area of effect damage like this, you probably want shatter on your sheet. I like it. It's fine. It didn't make my top 5 because I don't think it's party enough for me. Party playstyle wise, but
if you're the only one with access to magic, that also makes you the healer.
We put healing word and shatter on your sheet. Easy. You just take the I do the magic caster thing spell checklist. One healing spell, check. One area of effect damage spell, check. One saber die, check. Just go down the list.
All right. Are we down to your last one?
Last one for me. This one I think is excellent. And again, at all tiers of play, usually it's hold person. I think hold person is really yucky good. I also think it is, like I said, when talking about why I didn't like shatter, this is a bard way to say saber die. You're gonna be paralyzed, and my friend's gonna kick your ass if you don't pass this save. And that to me is like, yeah, that's what bards do. Is they set up their allies to not like hit the ball out of the park. That's
one way to look
delightful.
at it. I mean, it didn't make. Again, it's one of these one of the best second level spells perhaps on the list, but it didn't feel bardy to me.
Mm-hmm. That's reasonable. I think this very much feels like my version of the bard fantasy of, I would use hold person as they are so stunned by how amazing I am. They are like, wow, that is the hottest person on planet Earth, or that is the coolest person on planet Earth, or oh my god, what are these sick tunes? Just staring mesmerized at the bard. That to me all feels hold person. I love that you can upscale to hit more things.
That to me feels like
sell a
Enthrall.
fantasy. Sure. But this does an actual good effect, whereas Enthrall is disadvantage on wisdom perception checks. I think hold person's sweet. I'm pretty sure we talked about
it. Absolutely is.
Yeah.
And it did. I think it made both of our wizard list.
Yeah.
My
list overlaps a lot with my wizard list.
Is hold person available for clerics as well?
Hold person is a bard, cleric, druid, sorcerer, warlock, wizard spell. So it probably also made our cleric list.
Yeah, probably. But I couldn't bring myself to put it on the bard list.
One thing I will say about it that I don't say about it usually is saber dies are really fickle. If they pass, you're like, wow, I just spent a second level spell slot and nothing happened. I, as a player, personally hate that, and why I tend to steer away from these effects basically always. But as a DM, I've seen them be debilitatingly powerful, and people get a really huge amount of enjoyment from casting them successfully. So,
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's a higher risk, higher reward.
Absolutely.
You might do nothing, but if you do something, that creature's dead.
Yep. It's a death sentence. Those are our top fives?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that was it for my list. I guess it's time for the worst.
I'm excited. There's a decent chunk of options here.
Yeah, before I commit to this, I'm gonna take a
gander one more time, look it over.
I think I could look at the other contenders I'd like to talk about.
I think there are like 4 I'd put as contenders for worst.
Oh god, yeah. I almost feel bad, but all right, I'm gonna choose borrowed knowledge.
I hate borrowed knowledge. I hate borrowed knowledge so much. Why is borrowed knowledge this bad, Bob?
Because I don't care about the effect.
Fair enough. It wasn't
it probably shouldn't be the worst with what this is competing against. But
yeah, my worst is definitely worse than this. I'm gonna let you know that right now. So for those of you who don't know, this is from the Strixhaven Curriculum Chaos book. It's an hour duration. You get a skill, and that's it. You just pick a skill and you're proficient with it until spell ends for an hour. And I think this is unbelievably lame. I think this is a way that you make all of the charisma checks now, is what this kind of reads as. This is a way that takes away any character individuality, as even though they have a 1 lower strength, they're proficient, so they make the athletics checks instead, right? There are windows where characters will get to do their skill proficiency stuff that borrowed knowledge just goes, or I can spend a second level spell slot and get a +1 to that, and then you don't make the check anymore, and I make the check, and I get to be the center of attention more of the time, and I get to have all of the skills accessible to me, and can be better at you than all of them, and that's lame. It also doesn't help that bards get jack of all trades, which means they already had half proficiency bonus to everything. So like you don't.
All right, that's where I'm looking at this, is from a bard perspective. You hate that it exists. I
hate that this exists.
Don't care enough that I'll never use it.
Yeah, adding +1 to 2 to things is about as good, especially in the early tiers. In the later tiers, it is a lot better to get the proficiency than half. But like, I hate it.
Yeah,
I don't think it's the worst. There are gonna be moments where I would probably cast it.
There are gonna be It's
not I personally, but I would
at times,
imagine
right?
It being cast. Yeah,
it's castable, just not by me.
That's fair.
All right, but yeah, since the reason I chose it is because I care so little about it, I don't really have anything else to say.
That's fair. Have we talked at length about borrowed knowledge? Do we have a video on it?
I think we did.
You should go watch that video. I'm pretty irate in that video, as I normally am.
Sam the Spell Hater.
That's my nickname, as we all know. My worst is probably the spell I'm most. This is probably the worst spell in D&D that I'm most regularly preparing, and it's Skyright. I think Skyright is so useless.
Certainly a contender.
Yeah. It's a second level spell. It's a ritual at least, but like it's only flavor. This is a cosmetic cantrip levels of flavor that is attached to a second level spell slot for no particularly good reason. And it's just like, yeah, you could write, "Will you marry me in the sky?" Use Goodbye Plane, or you could cast Skyright and do that. And like, that's never mattered.
Or I mean,
Ever.
what if I'm lost in the woods or something?
That's so
Help
very
me.
helpful. So everyone around will go, "Oh no, someone within several miles of here is lost in the woods."
All right.
Oh no.
All right. No. All right. What about as a signal? Like, all right, when I get to when I get in position, I'm gonna write something in the sky. Potato. And when you see the word potato in the sky, that's when we strike.
Because I'm sure. I guess there'll be a funny moment where all of the people around will be like, "Why is there potato written in the sky?" And then they'll be
Exactly.
like,
So nobody's expecting to be attacked.
"Obviously not. No one's seeing this enormous signal in the sky and not thinking anything of it."
Well, no, they're just saying they're up there. What's potato? Now, if it said
What is
attack,
potato?
then that's different.
This has several big asterisks. Number one, it's daytime and people can see it. Number two, it's not stormy or raining. The weather has to be clear. And number three, you're above ground. You're not in a dungeon or doing any other kinds of kind of categories. But if you're in the exact situation where you're like, "All right, everybody, I'm gonna cast Skyright whenever I'm ready to go in," sure.
I'm
Coordinated
just
attacks
trying to
on the
throw
minute
stuff out.
probably is good enough, right?
This no, I'm not arguing that this is a great spell by any stretch of imagination.
Skyright's pretty awful. I love it though. This is I put this on bards just to make fun of people. I put this on bards just to be like, X person smells funny and just write it up in the sky for an hour. Just whenever they like offend me or beat me in a game of poker or whatever. It's the really petty messages that you can write with Skyright. Now, granted, you only get 10 words, right? Or it's 10. 10 words. So you have to be concise with your messages. But like, if you want to play the bard, that is just the pettiest. Oh god, I love Skyright for that. But that has nothing to do with power level. That is entirely flavor enhancer. That probably has no business being one of your like 6 prepared or known spells. Like, there's no reason you should put this on your sheet over any of the other options.
No, even for coordinating attack. I mean, you can do that with dancing lights. That's
just send them up.
Yeah. What other contenders for the worst are there? I'm seeing
Locate object is pretty bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Animal messenger's pretty bad. We've talked about that one, I think.
Yes, yeah, we have with the squirrel that doesn't know where their target is, and
yeah.
Pyrotechnics. I forgot what
Pyrotechnics.
that does. Is that
I have it on D&D. It should show up for me on D, even though I don't have any books on D&D Beyond. It should still show up because it's from one thing. I remember the spell is bad. I'm pretty sure it's like a similar level of cosmetic. It gives you fireworks or smoke. Smoke is bad fog cloud, and fireworks is a 1-round blind. Is that more castable than Skyright? It's not a ritual spell, so I'd go with probably not. So like, it is quite terrible. I think Invisibility is also really bad, but it's really bad for different reasons.
It's useful, but you just hate that it exists.
I hate that. I never want to be the game where I am expected to cast it, and thus it doesn't have a purpose to exist.
All right. Well, I think we've beaten this one to death.
There are a lot of bad bard spells. I think our picks are quite bad, but there are other awful ones too out there. Steer clear of any of those. There are also a lot of bangers, though. We talked about a lot of spells today that I was like, yeah, that's a really solid option. And even spells like Nathir's Message didn't make either of our top 5s. I think it's an exceptional bard spell that I would put on a lot of bards.
It almost made mine and probably should have. And I will say over Enthrall. Yes.
There we go.
All right. Well, but I'm already locked in. So, what were your picks?
Number 1, Invisibility. 2, Suggestion. 3, Detect Thoughts. 4, Silence. 5, Hold Person.
And your worst?
Skyright.
Skyright.
I love it. It's just really bad.
Oh, dear. All right. My picks were Silence, Invisibility, Crown of Madness, Enthrall, and Shatter. And my worst was Borrowed Knowledge.
And like, unlike Cleric, I definitely think this is a situation where you will not be embarrassed to put any of our even though we differed so much, I think all of our top fives are entirely reasonable, except maybe Enthrall. But like, you'll be happy on almost all the characters with those access. So
I think you might even be happy with Enthrall every now and again.
every now and again, maybe.
All right, that was level 2 bard spells. Stay tuned next week for level 3 bard spells. And we've got full list of wizards and clerics, so go check those out and watch our other stuff in the meantime.
If you're in the mood for like an hour and a half long binge, Bob uploads the full all 9 level and cantrip reviews.
Sam. 5-hour binge.
Oh, sorry.
Those videos are 5 hours
Listen,
long.
just all you gotta do is whenever you go to work in the morning, put it on your computer. Whenever you leave, when you come back, Bob will get that sweet runtime and that sweet view time. It's perfect. This is the strat. Or just actually watch it falling asleep, and then you won't even know that you didn't finish the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Way to game the system. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Let us know what you think down in the comments. What are your picks for the top 5 level 2 bard spells, or what do you think of our list? Until next time, bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.